Clarity is one of the most underrated strengths a person can develop because it acts as a shield against the constant noise of the world. Chaos exists all around. Endless demands, opinions, comparisons, and distractions fight for your attention every single day. But the truth is, most people aren't defeated by chaos itself. They are defeated because they never decided what truly matters. Without clarity, you are vulnerable to everything. With clarity, you become unshakable. Clarity doesn't remove the chaos, it simply reduces its power over you. It creates a filter through which you see, decide, and act. When you don't know what matters to you, every problem feels urgent, every comment feels personal, and every opportunity feels like the one you can't afford to miss. That's how people burn themselves out, by trying to fight every battle, respond to every critic, and chase every shiny object. The absence of clarity makes chaos feel like the driver of your life. Instead of leading your day, you're reacting to it. Instead of creating your direction, you're pulled in 100 directions by noise that never ends. But the moment you define your values, your goals, your principles, you cut through that chaos like a blade through fog. Suddenly you know which voices to ignore, which battles to fight, and which opportunities align with your mission. Clarity is not something you stumble into by chance, it's something you create with intention. It comes from asking hard questions. What do I really want? What do I stand for? What is worth my energy? What am I building toward in the long term? These questions act like anchors in a storm. The storm doesn't stop, but you stop drifting. When you're anchored in clarity, you no longer waste time on things that don't move you closer to your purpose. You become selective with your attention, protective with your energy, and disciplined with your actions. People often confuse business with progress, but clarity exposes the difference. Without clarity, you can spend all day working and still feel empty at night, because activity without alignment doesn't lead to fulfillment. With clarity, even small actions feel meaningful because they connect to something bigger. The person who knows why they are doing something always outlasts the one who is just doing it to keep up. Chaos cannot break someone who is rooted in purpose because they are not moved by random waves. They are guided by direction. Clarity also transforms how you handle criticism. When you lack clarity, every opinion shakes your confidence. You start to believe that other people's voices carry more weight than your own. But when you're clear, you understand that not every opinion deserves to be considered. You know the difference between feedback that sharpens you and noise that distracts you. Instead of reacting emotionally, you filter everything through your mission. Does this move me closer to what matters? If not, it doesn't deserve a response. That single filter saves you endless hours of stress and wasted energy. Another gift of clarity is the way it simplifies decision-making. Life is full of choices, but most are illusions of choice. Things that don't truly impact your long-term mission. Without clarity, you treat every decision like life or death. With clarity, you recognize most of them don't matter, and the few that do become obvious. Clarity cuts decision fatigue, reduces overthinking, and allows you to move forward with confidence instead of hesitation. Clarity doesn't just beat chaos, it redefines your relationship with it. Chaos will never disappear, it's the natural state of the world. But with clarity, chaos no longer rules you. You stop giving energy to distractions, and you stop confusing noise for importance. Clarity makes you efficient with your time, intentional with your focus, and powerful in your calm. In a world addicted to urgency and reaction, the one who has clarity is the one who wins. Life is unpredictable, and circumstances will rarely align perfectly with your expectations. There will always be unexpected setbacks, misunderstandings, delays, and disappointments. Most people believe that peace is found when everything around them falls into place, but that belief is what keeps them trapped in frustration. Circumstances are rarely within your full control, and if peace depended on perfection, you would be waiting forever. The truth is, reaction is always a choice. Circumstances don't decide whether you feel calm, strong, or focused. Your response does. Mastering that truth is the difference between living as a victim of life and living as the author of your own experience. When you treat reaction as automatic, you hand over your power to whatever happens outside of you. Someone cuts you off in traffic, and you snap. A colleague criticizes your work, and you spend hours replaying it in your mind. A delay ruins your plans, and your entire mood collapses. These reactions feel justified in the moment, but they reveal something deeper. You've allowed external triggers to dictate your inner state. Real strength comes when you recognize that a pause exists between what happens and how you respond. That pause is where choice lies, and that choice is what creates peace. Peace doesn't come from avoiding challenges, but from handling them differently. Two people can experience the exact same situation and walk away with completely opposite emotional states. The difference isn't the situation, it's the choice of reaction. One person chooses to see failure as the end, another chooses to see it as a lesson. One chooses to get offended by criticism, another chooses to use it as fuel. One chooses to let a delay ruin the entire day, another chooses to use the time productively. Life is not defined by what happens, but by what you decide to do with what happens. Training yourself to choose your reactions requires self-awareness. Most people react on autopilot, repeating the same emotional patterns without noticing. The first step is awareness, catching yourself in the moment and asking, Am I reacting or am I choosing? That simple question disrupts the autopilot and creates space to act differently. Awareness allows you to replace impulse with intention, anger with perspective, and stress with strategy. The second step is reframing. Reframing doesn't mean pretending a problem doesn't exist. It means choosing to interpret it in a way that empowers you rather than weakens you. When something goes wrong, instead of asking, why me, you ask, what can I learn? Instead of saying, this ruins everything, you say, this is redirecting me to something else. Reframing transforms reactions from emotional explosions into deliberate responses that serve you. The third step is discipline. Choice is simple, but it isn't easy. It takes discipline to breathe instead of shout, to wait instead of panic, to think instead of react. But discipline grows with practice. The more often you choose your reaction, the stronger your control becomes. Over time, what once triggered you into anger or stress no longer has power over you, because you've trained yourself to respond with calm and clarity. When you understand that reaction is a choice, you stop trying to control the uncontrollable. You no longer waste energy demanding that circumstances bend to your will. Instead, you redirect that energy inward, mastering what is always within your control: your attitude, your perspective, and your actions. This shift creates resilience. It makes you steady in storms, consistent under pressure, and unshakable in the face of uncertainty. Reaction is not about perfection. You will still feel anger, frustration, and disappointment because emotions are human. But choice allows you to feel those emotions without letting them define your next step. You acknowledge them, but you don't surrender to them. That balance is what creates true peace. Not the peace that depends on life being easy, but the peace that survives when life is hard. Detachment is not about indifference, it is about perspective. The world constantly pulls at your emotions, demanding immediate reactions, instant opinions, and quick decisions. Social media, workplace pressures, family expectations, and personal insecurities all mix together, creating a storm of noise that can cloud judgment. In the middle of that storm, it is easy to confuse urgency with importance and noise with truth. Detaching doesn't mean you stop caring, it means you create enough distance to see clearly. When you step back from the noise, you give yourself the gift of wisdom. Every impulsive decision carries the weight of emotion. When you decide in anger, you risk burning bridges. When you decide in fear, you risk shrinking opportunities. When you decide in haste, you risk overlooking the details that matter most. That is why detachment is a discipline. It allows you to pause, breathe, and give yourself room to evaluate without being trapped in the heat of the moment. The person who can detach doesn't ignore reality. They simply refuse to be controlled by it. They create a gap between stimulus and response, and inside that gap is where better choices are made. Detachment also protects your energy. Without it, every piece of noise gets inside you. A comment from a stranger ruins your mood. A single failure makes you doubt your entire ability. One rejection convinces you to stop trying. When you are too close to noise, it becomes difficult to see it for what it really is: temporary, small, and often irrelevant to the bigger picture. But when you detach, you zoom out. Suddenly, that one comment is just a passing opinion. That failure is just part of the process. That rejection is simply redirection. Distance transforms problems from mountains into pebbles. Wisdom thrives in silence, not in chaos. Think about some of the best decisions in history. Leaders, creators, innovators didn't arrive at clarity by reacting instantly to pressure. They stepped back, analyzed, and allowed space for reflection. Detachment creates that space. It slows you down just enough to see beyond the immediate emotions and to recognize long-term patterns. It helps you distinguish between what feels urgent and what is truly important. Noise always demands attention, but wisdom whispers. If you are too close to the noise, you will miss the whisper. Another powerful aspect of detachment is emotional neutrality. Emotions are not the enemy, they are signals. But when you are entangled with them, they can distort reality. Detachment doesn't mean suppressing feelings. It means acknowledging them without letting them dominate. For example, you can feel disappointment after a failure, but still detach enough to ask, what's the lesson here? You can feel anger at criticism, but still detach enough to ask, is there truth in this that can help me grow? That ability to separate emotion from evaluation is what allows wisdom to guide your actions instead of ego. Detachment also strengthens relationships. When you are too attached to winning every argument or proving your point, you damage connections. But when you detach, you stop reacting to every word and start listening with intention. You see the bigger picture of the relationship instead of the smallness of the moment. Detachment allows patience, understanding, and empathy to enter spaces where defensiveness once lived. By stepping back, you gain the clarity to choose words that heal instead of words that harm. In a world that glorifies immediacy, detachment feels counterintuitive. Yet, the ability to step back is what separates impulsive choices from wise decisions. Detachment is not withdrawal, it is control. It is refusing to be consumed by noise so that you can choose with intention. It is creating distance not to escape life, but to engage with it more effectively. The more you practice detachment, the less power noise has over you, and the more space wisdom has to shape the life you are building. Life is full of battles, but not every battle is meant to be fought. Many people exhaust themselves not because life is too hard, but because they spread their energy across fights that don't matter. They argue over opinions that won't change, defend themselves against critics who don't care, and chase validation from people who will never be satisfied. The result is burnout, frustration, and a constant sense of being drained. Real strength is not in fighting everything, it's in conserving energy for what counts. The wisest warriors are not the ones who swing their sword at every shadow, they are the ones who choose their battles with precision. Every fight has a cost. It costs time, focus, emotional energy, and sometimes even relationships. When you invest those resources in something meaningless, you weaken yourself for the battles that truly shape your future. Think about how often small conflicts steal your peace. An argument online, a rude comment, a minor inconvenience. These things feel urgent in the moment, but step back and ask, will this matter in a week, a month, or a year? If the answer is no, then it doesn't deserve your fight. Learning to walk away is not weakness, it is the discipline of prioritizing what actually matters. Strength is not proven in how loudly you argue or how many times you defend yourself. Strength is proven in restraint. It is seen when you have the power to engage, but the wisdom to remain silent. It is shown when you can stand tall in the face of provocation without being dragged into a pointless conflict. Every time you resist the urge to fight a meaningless battle, you are protecting your energy for the battles that will define your legacy, your goals, your growth, your purpose. Not every critic deserves an answer. Not every insult requires a defense. The more you respond to every attack, the more control you give to those who thrive on stealing your focus. Silence is sometimes the most powerful response because it communicates that your energy is too valuable to be wasted. The strongest leaders are not constantly at war with everyone around them. They are focused on building, on progressing, on creating. Their silence is not surrender, it is strategy. This doesn't mean avoiding all conflict. Some battles are necessary. Standing up for your values, protecting your vision, defending those who cannot defend themselves. These are fights worth your energy. But because these fights matter, you cannot arrive at them drained from meaningless wars. Conserving energy allows you to be fully present, sharp, and powerful when the battles that count arrive. That is why wisdom and patience are as important as courage and persistence. Learning to let go of small battles also creates peace within. When you fight everything, your life becomes a battlefield. You are always tense, always defensive, always ready to explode. But when you reserve your energy, your mind stays clear, your emotions stay balanced, and your spirit stays steady. Peace is not found in winning every fight. It is found in knowing which fights are worth entering at all. The greatest victories often come from focus, not force. A laser is powerful not because it fights everything around it, but because it directs all its energy in one concentrated direction. The same is true of life. When you stop scattering your energy on meaningless battles, you can channel it into building something that lasts. That is where true strength lies, not in noise, but in focus. The person who learns this discipline no longer feels drained by life, because they understand that their energy is too precious to waste. They don't fight for attention, approval, or ego. They fight only for purpose. Focus is one of the most powerful tools for creating direction and peace in life because it acts like a filter. The world is filled with noise, opinions, distractions, obligations, temptations, all competing for your attention. Without focus, that noise feels overwhelming. You try to respond to everything, satisfy everyone, and chase every opportunity. But when your vision is clear, you no longer see everything as equally important. Focus sharpens your perspective, separating what matters from what doesn't, what deserves energy from what deserves silence. Just as a camera lens blurs the background to highlight the subject, focus allows you to blur the noise and lock in on your true priorities. Clarity of vision makes it easier to ignore distractions because your mind understands the difference between progress and detour. A person without focus sees every new thing as a possibility. They jump from one idea to another, from one project to the next, but nothing truly sticks. They feel busy, yet remain unfulfilled, because activity is not the same as achievement. Focus, on the other hand, acts as a compass. It doesn't just tell you where to go, it shows you where not to waste your steps. It prevents you from scattering your energy and keeps you aligned with the path that matters most. Noise often disguises itself as urgency. Emails, notifications, people's demands all feel like they must be answered immediately. But focus teaches you to pause and ask, does this contribute to my vision? If the answer is no, then it belongs in the background. Every time you say yes to a distraction, you are indirectly saying no to your purpose. Focus gives you the courage to reverse that pattern, to say no to distractions so that you can say yes to what actually builds your future. Another strength of focus is its ability to protect your emotional energy. Distractions don't just steal time, they drain your spirit. A clear vision protects you from being pulled into unnecessary arguments, comparisons, and validations. When you know where you are going, you don't need to compete with everyone else. You simply keep moving forward. The more focused you are, the less you care about noise, because you recognize it for what it is irrelevant to your mission. Focus also simplifies decision-making. Without it, every option feels overwhelming because you lack a framework for evaluation. With focus, decisions become easier. You measure every choice against your vision. Does this bring me closer to my goal or not? That clarity eliminates overthinking and creates momentum. Progress is no longer about doing more. It is about doing what matters. Focus builds resilience too. When setbacks come, a scattered mind sees them as reasons to quit. A focused mind sees them as detours on the same road. Focus allows you to return quickly to the path, to keep going without being lost in discouragement. It filters out the doubts, the fears, and the voices that tell you to stop, keeping your eyes on the larger picture. That resilience is what separates those who start strong but fade from those who endure until the end. Focus is not just about productivity, it is about peace. When your life is full of noise, your mind is restless. You are always reacting, always pulled in 100 directions. But when your focus is sharp, your mind feels lighter. You stop chasing everything and start investing in the few things that matter. This is why focus is liberating. It doesn't confine you. It frees you from the weight of distractions. It allows you to live intentionally, knowing that your energy is being directed where it counts. The more you strengthen your focus, the more unnecessary noise fades away. It doesn't mean the noise disappears. It will always exist, but it no longer controls you. With focus, you filter the world so that what remains in your mind, your schedule, and your heart are only the things that align with your vision. That is how progress is made. That is how peace is built. Calm is one of the rarest strengths in a world addicted to speed, noise, and reaction. People often mistake calm for passivity, as if remaining unbothered means you don't care or lack courage. In reality, calm is the highest form of control. It is the ability to stand steady when everything around you is shaking, to think clearly when others are panicking, and to choose wisely when emotions are pulling you in every direction. Calm is not the absence of pressure, it is the mastery of it. It is not weakness, it is power in its most disciplined form. When situations get tense, most people react impulsively. They raise their voices, lose their temper, or rush into decisions they later regret. They confuse noise with strength, believing that being loud or aggressive proves authority. But true authority is seen in the person who doesn't flinch when provoked, who doesn't lose their center when challenged. Calm gives you control over the one thing that always matters most: yourself. You can't control yourself, you can't control outcomes. And if you can't control outcomes, you can't lead, influence, or build anything meaningful. Calm also creates clarity. Emotions, when left unchecked, cloud judgment. Anger narrows your vision, fear exaggerates threats, and stress convinces you that everything is urgent. But calm widens perspective. It allows you to step back, see the situation fully, and recognize what is truly important. Calm people make better decisions because they are not slaves to the moment. They don't allow temporary emotions to create permanent damage. Their strength lies in patience, in the ability to wait for the right move rather than rushing into the wrong one. Remaining unbothered is also an act of energy conservation. Every time you react emotionally to something small, you waste energy that could have been used for something significant. Calm people don't allow critics, interruptions, or inconveniences to drain them. They understand that not everything deserves a response, and not every provocation deserves attention. By staying calm, they protect their energy for the battles that truly matter. This is why calm is strategic. It's not about ignoring the world, but about engaging with it on your own terms, not on the terms of chaos. Calm builds trust as well. In moments of crisis, people naturally look to the one who isn't panicking. Calm creates stability, and stability inspires confidence. Whether in leadership, relationships, or personal life, calm communicates strength without words. It says, I am in control, I am steady, I am not shaken. People follow calm because it feels safe, reliable, and wise. Even when things go wrong, the calm person is the anchor others hold on to. Cultivating calm is not easy because it requires self-discipline. It demands that you resist the natural urge to react, to defend, to fight back. Calm is trained through awareness, through pausing before responding, through choosing perspective over impulse. It is built by understanding that you don't need to win every argument, answer every critic, or engage with every distraction. Calm requires confidence, because only those who know their worth can stay silent in the face of provocation. Calm also strengthens resilience. Life will always test you with delays, rejections, and disappointments. Without calm, each one feels like a collapse. With calm, each one becomes a challenge you can face with strength. Calm turns setbacks into lessons and failures into stepping stones. It prevents temporary problems from creating permanent defeat. The more you practice calm, the more unshakable you become. Because you are no longer moved by every wave, you are anchored within yourself. Calm is not weakness, it is power refined. Anyone can react, but it takes mastery to remain centered. Anyone can raise their voice, but it takes strength to stay silent until the right moment. Calm transforms pressure into clarity, chaos into strategy, and conflict into wisdom. It is the superpower that allows you to move through life with authority, influence, and peace, not because the world is easy, but because you are steady enough to handle it.